So I took the opportunity to go to Stockholm, Sweden this weekend to partake in PDXCon, and in all honesty, it was quite interesting. It was a very intimate event with about 400 people attending at, well, the center of the city. It was very, very nice. There was a lot of really cool stuff to be talked about, and of course, Stellaris is definitely one of those things, and of course, I only went to get this particular plushie. Of course, there was no other reason why I would go. A lot of space to play games. Not all the rooms were entirely filled, so it doesn't appear there was a lot of interest in that. And, of course, a lot of Stellaris players that needed help, especially, this guy over here who seems to be having problems with his economy. Bro, put your planets into sectors. Clearly, it is not working. Also, that outpost. What were you thinking? And, of course, the talks. A lot of really interesting stuff was said about Stellaris, and in this particular video we're going to be talking about that. That on the right there is Wiz, completely out of focus because, well, B-roll is not everything, and I should really invest in a new camera. Anyway, let's talk about what was discussed in the Stellaris part of the PDXCon in terms of what is interesting. Well, there was a very interesting talk in terms of what is coming up and how the game has been developed. So, right now, Stellaris is a game with a lot of freedom. You can do whatever you want. You can go wherever you want as well. Now, it would appear that the developers want a more quote-unquote geographical variety in the game. So they want to add more things like binary stars, different types of nebulas with different types of effects, space weather. References to the warp were in fact made up, warp storms of course, but it's not going to be easy and it is going to take some time. And this is an extension of this. Something that was brought up as well were the changes in FTL. Now I will be doing a video about this in the near future regarding the potential upcoming changes in FTL, because there was a video done I think about 2 weeks ago from the release of this video, where Daniel Morgård as well as Martin Wiz were just sitting down and basically talking about mechanics that they weren't particularly happy about. And apparently there is a lot of issues in the game that stem directly from the way faster-than-light travel is implemented. And change the geography of the game will also impact that. Now, like I said, we'll be talking about that a little bit more in depth. Sector AI is something that's being worked on as well. Wiz, who was originally brought on as the AI director for Europa Universalis 4, from what I can remember, is doing it personally, which makes sense. He's no longer actively working on AI in that sense that he's doing project-wide stuff. But Sector AI is something he is working on directly. From what I can remember is that he fixed Europa Universalis Rome about, what must have been, like 10 years ago now, to basically make it a workable game in AI terms. So, Sector UI and the in-game UI in general will be improved, which is interesting. There's a lot of things within Paradox games that is difficult to work with, because there is, unlike, for instance, a game like Civ, there is a lot more going on under the hood and a lot more elements are being displayed to people at any one time. Therefore, a extensive GUI is kind of important. So whether or not we're going to see a complete overhaul to something that is similar to, say, Beyond Earth or anything like that is a whole different question. But Paradox has taken on board the lead designer of, I believe, Civilization 5. His name is John Schaefer, and is now working at Paradox, and apparently he's working on an unannounced project, which is incredibly cool. It looks like there is not going to be any licensed music in the game that has vocals in it, due to a lot of focus on the game UI having a lot of sound blurbs in it. Any sort of licensed music with vocals is going to be difficult. That, of course, does not mean that Vangelis cannot be in it, but I'm sure the licenses for that are going to be out of this world. So for anybody out there that really likes Blade Runner, don't get your hopes up. Super weapons and planet destroyers are in fact coming. So this is something that has been highlighted since the Highline release, and something they have been alluding to. It was also in the upcoming features dev diary that was released in mid-March, or I think mid-May even. And it's going to be an interesting thing to work with. The main problem they're having right now is how to make it work with the war score system. So right now the war score system is based on planetary capture mainly, as well as some fleet combat. So in order to balance that, that's going to be problematic. New endgame crises were addressed. However, right now the main priority is on fixing the AI crisis, which is incredibly weak. If you've ever seen the AI video that I have, it is very badly integrated. Not so much integrated, but it's not nearly as powerful as it could be. So that's going to be completely redone in a future patch. And from that moment onwards, we will see new endgame crisis. I'm still of the opinion that the end of cycle as well as the war in heaven can be kind of considered to be endgame crises, but that's something for you guys to discuss in the comments below. Diplomacy with advanced pre-FTL species is being considered. So basically, any sort of species that is, from the talk, any species that's, for instance, in the information age or in the space age that has done early colonization of nearby planets in their solar system, moon bases, etc., would have serious upheaval if an alien spacecraft would hover over their planet just to build, a station there to observe them. So it may be coming at some point, similar to the story pack that we had for Horizon Signal, but it's not a priority. I also doubt it will be free like Horizon Signal was. There is... Oh, this is one of the questions I asked myself. Which is regarding galactic features. So Sanctuary and Zanan, which are the only two main galactic features that come in the vanilla game, it feels like they were supposed to be more extensive. And after talking to Wiz, or at least asking the question to Wiz, they kind of alluded to that they really want to do stuff like that because they peruse on places like TV Tropes all the time to find new ideas of sci-fi. And the canvas of Stellaris makes for a game of almost infinite possibilities because sci-fi is a realm of effectively infinite possibilities. It's kind of very much like Marvel in that regard. And apparently, originally the game was supposed to have more, but I'm not entirely sure whether or not they all made it in. So who knows if there's anything that got cut because of fun reasons or practicality reasons, but it looks like we're going to see a lot more in the future of that, but there's no ETA. Will there be another question that somebody asked was also, will there be more peacetime stuff? Right now, there is a significant amount of peacetime stuff. I'm not entirely sure whether or not the person in question had really studied out the game as in terms of expansion and diplomacy. There is quite a lot of stuff to be done there. Of course, there's a Space UN that has been alluded to in 1.4 and later, Death Diaries, so we'll see whether or not that is going to happen. Trading will be improved by building on the current existing system. Right now, there really is no current existing system aside from direct trade with your allies or enemies, which are basically akin to bribing people. I'm kind of hoping that we're going to see a completely new system integrated within the game that is actively allowing you to trade, including having visuals to illustrate this trade, like trade routes, etc. Let's take a look here. Apparently, we'll be able to declare war over not colonized planets and non-inhabited systems. Effectively, it looks like that we're going to be able to do area of denial. So, for instance, right now in, say, European Osiris 4 or Crusader Kings, there's regions that are not particularly important, but you can still go to war for them if you have the proper casus belli. In space, obviously, especially if you're playing a hyperlane map, certain systems become more important because of their strategic value within the hyperlane network. So it looks like we're going to be seeing combat over these potential systems so we don't have to mess around with frontier outposts in order to push our borders more organically. So it looks like border growth through combat is a thing that is currently on the drawing board. Whole territory and border system looks like is going to be completely reworked. Apparently, the idea is to have small stations built to expand in each system. As I mentioned, it is far useful in a hyperlane type game, as border growth is kind of important when it comes to hyperlanes, of course. This kind of also ties back to the FTL video that is coming up regarding the rework of that system, or at least the potential rework in that system. Improvements to characters. Now, for those of you who've played Crusader Kings 2, and I still think Crusader Kings 2 is one of the funnest games that Paradox has ever made due to the RPG value of the characters. It's basically Sims Medieval without the giant tentacle in the pit. It is something that they want to do, allowing leaders to be developed better. Not to the extent that CK2 has, for instance, the visions and basically objectives in the long and the short term that they have, but it does look like that unique leaders will have their own events. So when they finally die, there is a value behind this. So if you have, for instance, a hero leader or something along those lines, the impact of them dying is quite significant. And a good example for this is, like, let's say you're playing Star Trek New Frontiers. Hey, Kirk dies. This is a major problem. Or, for instance, let's say you're playing Star Wars. The Emperor dies. This is an issue. Another good example of this one would be Siphius Cain, hero of the Imperium. Him dying would cause problems from a happiness point of view, of course. Let's say that you have an Imperial-style game, you have a leader that is born, or an heir, there's happiness going on because of festivals, that sort of thing. One thing that is kind of high on the list of priorities is the fleet design feature. Now, fleet design, obviously, is something that I have not really talked about much because I generally feel that fleets are kind of your own. Now, I can go into detail a little bit more in the near future, but especially in 1.6 now, that is out of the way, so we have actually a base to work with. However, it does look like the fleet designer is in the works, had a super high priority, and basically it's very similar to the army designer in EU4. It looks like that being able to build fleet compositions efficiently and then having all your fleet yards effectively cranking those out is something that is on the books right now. So very excited about this one. Not having to individually click all my cruisers or all my corvettes and so on in order to crank them out quickly would be nice indeed. Improvements to the situation log are coming as well. Having a proper archive of quests, being able to see, being able to select which kind of messages you find important, etc. as well. And also, everybody there at PDXCon got themselves a Stellaris Anniversary Edition. So that was really cool. I thought that was very, very fun. And now I have the game twice. So now I have to come up with some sort of cool competition to give you people, or at least have the potential to give you guys a copy of the Anniversary Edition. Because I know that some of you have only gotten the base game, or not even have the game at all, and just here for the funsies. Anyway, that wraps up my my talk, well, not my talk, but my video on PDXCon. And John Schaefer, the designer, the new designer for PDX, had a very interesting thing to say regarding tactical and strategic video gameplay. Now, a lot of people have been asking publicly, hey, I would like to see more tactical ground warfare. Fair enough. He kind of had to say this about that.
Is it a strategic game or is it a tactical game? If you add more tactics, then it becomes a tactical game, whether you like it or not. It's not. I mean, you can have elements of both, but the tactical side of the game will dominate. And this is one of the reasons why I think a lot of the games that have tried having a tactical mode and a strategic mode haven't really worked out or haven't been as good games.
So there you have it. Apparently, games with a lot of technical mechanics don't really work out in a general strategic style of combat. And of course, one of the examples that was used here in cases that it does work is, of course, the Total War series. Now, I'm going to finish off this video with a final message from our good friend Wiz. But in the meantime, if you enjoyed this and you would like me to go to more of these events, and yeah, that's totally possible. So feel free to hit that like button or subscribe if you're new. Of course, if you thought that the video itself was of derelict quality, the dislike button is there, of course, for you to use as well. Until next time, take good care of yourselves and each other.
Yeah, it could be something to focus on in the future. But it's more about just something we're talking about stage right now. I'm answering that for a lot of things, but it's just how it is.